can I live stream? Does anybody know? Can I get on there and play video games like my best friends do? Can I see them? Can they see that I'm rapping? Can I just get in my closet and show them that I'm here trapping? Can we do that? Like, can we get the mic guy on the thing? Can we get podcast Mike over here to the thing with the screwdriver to just say, hey, bang, bang, you're on there live streaming. It's just you and your friends, man. But then you realize that you've got nothing else and that you're chilling and that it's all inside yourself. That's where the happiness comes from, man. That's all it is. That's all it can be. Why worry about this shit? Are you just chilling or are you not chilling? Because that's fine. You might be chilling. If you might be, then you can bust a rhyme. Maybe you don't. Maybe you're chilling in your closet at home. Maybe you're not doing that. Maybe you're somewhere all alone. Maybe you're not all alone. Maybe you're in a crowd, but it's all just the same, man. Just like being from Stroud, Oklahoma, like the middle of nowhere, man. I've heard of people being from there, but I'm like, is that where? I don't even know. I just think about that place, though. I think I had a golf tournament close in a place called Weatherford. I was like, hey, man, South Central PGA, man. I'm like 11 years old. Can I win this thing, man? I said, well, I thought about cheese fries the whole time. This Zoom thing is pretty cool. Maybe I'll also share my screen also. Share sound and share desktop. Okay. Let's try this, bro. Okay, so alright. Take us to the there we go. Okay, look at this. Alright. Hey, shout out to J-Hove. Where were we, man? We were just talking about something, man. We were saying we were in Oklahoma and it was just some place for those guys in the, I don't know what we were talking about. I must have forgot. Oh yeah, that was it, man. Yeah, we were talking about golf and that stuff that you get at the concession stand, those little Twixie pistol things with the sugar, man, you know, the red and green ones, like a Friday night football game. You remember those things with the nachos and the Dr. Pepper, man? He's like, imagine the health effects of all this stuff as we take tests and we think about it and we say, oh man, that's kind of bad, man. And he says, okay, well, what was that for? And I say, what's anything for, man? Just think about that. He says, what do you mean, man? I said, who are you? He said, I don't know. My name's Dave. Who are you? I said, well, where is Dave from? Where did he come from? What was he before? His mom and dad made him. Is that still Dave? And he said, yeah. And I said, where, man? And he said, oh, I don't know. In the sky, man. Why do you ask these questions, man? I said, do you have an answer to the question? Yeah, who is Dave? And he says, I don't know, man. And I say, I think that's the correct answer, man. We don't know who Dave is, and Dave doesn't know himself. If anybody doesn't know, it's Dave because he can't see himself. He can see the top of his nose and the rest of the stuff that he looks at, though, but that's just Dave, and he's hanging out with himself, though, but he doesn't know. When you say he's hanging out with himself, there's otherness. Is it like Dave is with himself, or he's something other which looks at Dave, and he's like, man, I don't know. That's kind of crazy. Dave looked at no, and then he walked away. And that's Dave. He's just chilling now, but he knows something further, man. He's just Dave. But yeah, what is that? He says, I'm thinking about it, but it's kind of crazy. I got a story for that. He said, okay, what's the story, man? I said, well, it's just this. I was listening to something. No, I was reading on this thing. It's called Pocket. It's a great app. There's a link. Get the podcast guy in. But anyway, I'll tell you about this. My friend Ilari, man, he said, hey, check out this. We'll be back. Okay, this is Breeze on the album Window Seat by Spencer Hunt and Taisu. Shout out to these guys. Okay, so we were talking about that guy, Ilari, man. He tells me to read this article. I'm like, all right, man. I look at it, and it's about an asteroid. On the news today, we had a similar story about the primordial subjects within inside of an asteroid. If it really is primitive, come to find that inside of these things we can find what we're made of. And essentially, if the universe is all of the same matter, yes, then it was all created at the same time. And then what is recycling, right? It says we things we can't recycle because they're not in our lifetime. But then we look at things and we realize they all do recycle, because everything is just this one huge cycle. So anyways, in this article, I'm sitting there and I'm thinking, man, this geologist, he goes down to like Peru or something, man. And he says, hey, there's an asteroid. A lot of pieces of it fell out of the sky. I'll give you $50,000 cash. Just give me that, please. And they say, why? And I say, do you want the $50,000? I can tell you it's real. And then more scientists show up with lots of cash in their bag. And they all buy the primordial asteroids and they go home and do different things. This one guy, he donated to Arizona State University, man, and then he kept some of it for himself. The scientists also say that the ones that he kept and the ones that he brought back every time they were around air, all of that organic chemistry or whatever it is on top of the rock actually interacts with that, and it ruins the sample per se. So they had one today and they were out in space, man, and they pulled some out, but then they wanted more, so they lost it all. And they said, yeah, it's our own desires running against us. But anyway, the moral of the story is we can look into these rocks and see. But the scientist says, taste this, it's 4.5 billion years old. I look at him and say, if that's 4.5 billion years old, and so are you. Isn't that kind of crazy? Okay. This is the album Introspective by Nothing to Say 2020, and the song is Far Away. Zane is also with us. How's everybody doing? Say, okay, what day is it? He says, what are you talking about? And I say, who are you? And he says, well, who am I say, what day is it? And how do you know? Tell me why. And he says, well, the day I was born, then there was a night. And that was my first night on Earth. And then there was another day. And I say, okay, well, when does your day start? He says, well, what's the meaning of it all? I said, I don't know. It's up to you. You could leave. See what all the buddies are listening to. Cassidy, Hudson, Shram, Smith, Katie Dodson. Shout out. Okay, this is Forget Me. Online mall music. Less people. Oh, it's by less.people. All right. They have some funny songs. Look, Modigliani nudes. These people are cool, man. All right. All right. so let's look at this. I'm just a fish and I'm swimming in the river, man. I'm looking at other fish and they say, well, what about you? And I say, remember that big fish that got caught about 10,000 years ago? They got him in that museum and everybody's looking at him, dude. They said, which fish do you think I want to be? Just look at me. I'm swimming in this water. I'm swimming pretty damn happily. He says, well, what about when you die? Are you going to worry about that? And the fish says, I have no idea. All these things come around and look at me, man. And they just pull something in my mouth and they ask me if I'm happy, man. But they throw me back. Look at me. I'm walking around, man, just like a colony of ants. If you look at its neurology, it's just like a couple of neurons with a little bit of fiber. And he's like, well, man, imagine if you could eat like an ant. I said, well, the queen would tell you what to do, and there, that'd be that. And he says, well, how's it any different right now if the government's not the queen? I said, well, touche. And then we drank some thing for our spleen. Something for our spleen. And then he said, hey, how about a Nike? I'm like, the one you can roll up and put in a carry-on and take like 50 of them on to the South America on. He's like, what are you talking about, bro? I'm like, okay. He said, what's your favorite book, man? And I said, that's a good question. But what's your favorite book? And he looks at me and he says, no one's ever asked me. And then you think to yourself, wow, no one really has asked me. But then you think, yeah, they have, but they didn't mean it. Song Harvest, let's think about a little bitty thing about tribal civilization to this role of like agriculture, man. How every single month we need to like do all of these things, and then we put it in the ground and we spray pesticides and then we eat it all, man. Some people neglect to think about the trade-offs that we made, about thinking, hey man, look at this, the trade-offs that we made. And he says, well, what do you mean? I said, well, who were you yesterday? He said, I'm the same as I am now. And I say, well, what about 10 years ago, man? He says, well, obviously I've changed. 10 years has passed. But then I say, okay, is it a constant process or did it happen overnight, man? And he says, well, it's a constant process. I say, well, who are you then? What about the guy I was talking to 10 minutes ago? Who is that guy, man? And he said, actually, you're right, man. We're different every time. At every single place and at every single time. Those things are kind of subject to change if you look at the physics of it, man. And he's like, man, that's really trippy. Sweet. And then I think, yeah, dude, it is sweet. It's kind of funny, too. And then he laughs and he looks at me and he says, dude, let's FaceTime, bro. And I say, where are you at, man? He says, I'm back in Namibia, man. I'm like, what are you talking about, man? What are you doing in Namibia, man? He said, dude, I got in this car with this guy and he was drunk, but he was the only lorry driver from like here to Timbuktu. Pulls out like, I'm not kidding you, actual 40s of beer. And the guy's drinking like 6 of them. And I asked to get out like here. He's like, no. We drove like 6 hours, bro. It was like a 12-hour trip. And this guy's getting consistently drunk though. So he said, I talked to this guy like 5 hours. I don't know why. But then at about 6, he drank like 6 40s and I was out. I asked to get out of the car. He took a piss and then he kept drinking. I was like, man, are you kidding me? Okay, this is Harvest. Soul Food Forums and Blue Wednesday, along with G Mills on this one. Harvest. not that. Not bad. So this is from Epictetus. If you wish any good thing, get it from yourself, you say. No, but from someone else. Not so, but get it from yourself. For the rest, when the tyrant threatens and summons me, I answer, whom are you threatening? If he says, I will put you in chains, I reply, I will throw you into prison. Let's start over with that one. All right. I like this, baby. Okay. This is Youth by Blue Wednesday. An EP called Discovery, also 2020. Shout out to Blue Wednesday. All right. Epictetus, man. Okay, this guy was born a slave. He was brought over from Greece after a war or something, man. And this is like maybe 100 AD or maybe just before or after that. But then he got his freedom and he became a philosopher, man. I don't know if he was a philosopher before that, but it was fashionable to educate your slaves. So here we are. This is Epictetus, man. If you wish any good thing, get it from yourself, you say. No, but from someone else. Do not so, but get it for yourself. For the rest, when the tyrant threatens and summons me, I answer, whom are you threatening? If he says, I will put you in chains, I reply, he's threatening my hands and feet. If he says, I will behead you, I answer, oh, he's threatening not me, he's threatening my neck, that's what I say. If he says, I will throw you into prison, what do I say? He's threatening my paltry body. And then if he threatens me with exile, I will give him the same answer. Does he then threaten you? Not at all. If I feel that all this is nothing to me, not at all, but if I am afraid at any of these threats, is it I whom he's threatening? Who is there left then for me to fear? The man who is master of what? The things that are under my control? But there is no such man. The man who is master of the things that are not under my control. And what do I care for them? Epictetus, man, this guy's the GOAT. This is Cosmos by Don't Cry and Nokia. I think that's a pangolin. Hey, shout out to the EP Odyssey on me. I like China like a new history, like written by John King Fairbank and Merle Goldman, man. They're two great authors and they wrote it all down, man. Those are the Cambridge histories before that, but this one's different, man. It's the Harvard Publishing House. He's like, okay, man, is that Cambridge or Cambridge, England? I'm like, I don't know, man. And he said, okay, man. He says, all right, what is like that thing where you just feel the beat and then you take a breath and you look there, man? I'm like, well, it's kind of like waking up and closing your eyes for like 15, 20 minutes and then just kind of being your own eyes. He says, okay, but when you wake up, do you wake up behind your eyes and then do you open them, or do you open up and then you wake up? He's like, I don't know, but how does it feel to wake up? I'm like, I don't know. And then I felt like, oh my God, I just woke up though. He's like, oh, 庄子七讲，出书生活什么七章？他说，大学之道才明明德。我说， 诶，你怎么知道明明是哪一个单位 ？Okay, this is taisu again and Spencer Hunt. Midnight. Again from window seat. Nice. Nice seat for some lo-fi. Hey, what's up? Okay. All right. So along one day, there was this New York Times reporter, man. His name's Josh Foer, and he's like, hey, what's up, man? So he's just a reporter for the New York Times. It's like one of those podcasts. You start out, and he's like, I'm not going to bust rhymes, but I'm going to tell you my story. And I'm like, all right, let's hear it, man. He wrote it in a book. It's called Moonwalking with Einstein. It's a great book, man. I'd recommend it to anybody. It's probably in the show notes, man. But anyway, let me just tell you about this guy anyway, man. So he sees this memory championship in New York City, man, and obviously he works for the New York Times, so he's chilling there, and he says, oh, I'll sign up for that. And in 1 year, he beats the thing, becomes the best memoried man in the entire world, man, and then he writes a book about how he did it. He's just a funny, chill little guy. He, like, lived in his parents' basement and put on this stuff, like, why? I'm like, dude, he's cool. Yeah. Joshua Foer, great book. And then Plato says, hey, man, I got this defense, and I don't know what to say, so I'll write a script and then I'll throw it away, man, because all my thing is saying is just, I don't know, man, and everybody says I know something, but he says, if I say that you don't know and you say that you do know, is my saying that you don't know some heretical info? And he's like, no, because I know. And he says, well, I don't. And he says, well, I'm throwing you in jail. And you say, okay, bro, if you want to throw me in jail, if it so pleases you, then do that. If you want to execute me, all right, by all means, go ahead. But if you don't want to, then please leave me in peace. It's like Socrates. It's like a cat with like 6 toes in Miami Beach, like one of those polydactyl things that Ernest Hemingway had. And he looks at me and he says, that's rad. And then I say, I blink with Socrates. He rolls with me, and then I see him. I want Socrates right inside of me, in my heart, in my chest. Socrates breathes out, man. Okay. This is Twilight by Kupla. People ever say, like, have you ever seen Kubla Khan? I'm like, wasn't that like the first ever emperor of the Yuan dynasty? And he's like, yeah, I think it was, bro. I think that was the grandson of Timur, of Genghis Khan. He's like, I think it was, bro. And he's like, oh, that was Kubla Khan. Does everybody remember Samuel Taylor Coleridge, or like Coleridge, like not Colorado, like Boulder, man, but he was smoking some stuff. His name was Samuel Taylor Coleridge, I believe, bro. We got to get the podcast guy to look at that up. And is it Katie Dotson? Hey, how you doing? All right. So really quickly, let me tell you, Sailor Taylor Coleridge, he went there, he wrote a poem, and I think it was called Kubla Khan. If it wasn't called Kubla Khan, then it was something of the sort. But he was on a trip in Yuan Dynasty, Beijing, though. It was probably named something else. And this is the first time that any Mongol had ever lived in a palace, nonetheless not a hut. It was Genghis Khan's grandson, and he founded the Yuan Dynasty, and it became Chinese. What a dynasty. And he's like, but wait, if it was Mongolian before, then how did it turn Chinese when you put the Chinese there, bro? I'm like, dude, there's 1.3 billion now. How many were there back then? Probably not that many, but it's still a really a lot, man. Anything that goes into a society, an ethno-state, something that big just gets gobbled up and spit out and chewed back. And he says, oh my God, well, what about ideas, man? I say, they do some crazy stuff, but they started from there, man. He says, what do you mean? I'm like, that's like recycling. All these ideas, they went out, they came right back in, and then they came out, and it's like an echo chamber, man. We just scream into it, it screams right back, and we look and we say, hey, that's great. What about the Tao Te Ching? What about all these things? How many times have people written stuff down, but they've thought it, man? You got to sit down and feel this behind your eyelids. You got to close your eyes and chill and just sit there and do nothing at all. Seriously. Okay. This is Rem by Strello. Bedtime Stories Part 2. Nice. 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 Yeah. Trams listened to a song called Boyfriend. Go Shram, bro. Okay, so one time I met this guy. He's got the same name as me. I'm like, what do you mean? Why? His name's Carson Michael Shram. My name's Carson Michael Mulligan. The last part, it rhymes, but it's not the same. And I'm like, okay, it's not the same. We spit art in our hands, and then we shake each other's hands. And then I have him register to vote because that's just who I am. At that point in space-time, it was like, I don't know, bust a rhyme like 2014. I was laughing anyway. It was funny, man. Anyway, that guy's name's Shram. In 2015, man, about a year and a half after we met, we went to Europe together, man, with a guy named Ty Mowdy. It was really funny. We got rowdy, and then we started hanging out. I was going to tell you a story about it, but I kind of forgot. And now I realize why I thought of Shram, but here's what he forgot. So he forgot like $10 to get inside of this club. We were in Amsterdam. We were hanging out with these Dutch guys. They were drinking a lot, bro. And then me and Mowdy were about to get into the club, and Shram's gone. And then we went in, we came out, the lights were on outside. Someone turned the sun back in. And then Shram, nowhere to be found, man. So me and Mowdy, we laughed. We start to look around just a little bit. No Shram. And we're thinking, man, where's Shram at? I thought to myself, I know where he's at. He's in some crazy place. He's probably confused, but he's laughing as he thinks about us thinking about him, man, because that's who Shram is, man. He's laughing at this. So I shoot a laugh up to the heavens, and I laugh with him. And then he says, okay, well, don't worry, guys. Shram didn't die, but he's actually in some other place. He's probably sleeping. He's not thinking of this right now. So I'm like, all right. He's probably tired, wanted to sleep, didn't know where the hotel was, and probably went somewhere else. I don't know. So we get back to the hotel. I go to sleep. I find out I'm pretty drunk. I wake up. I can taste it. Mowdy's like, hey, dude, what the? I'm like, okay, what? And he's like, hey, man, we can't find Shram, man. I'm like, I knew that when I went to sleep. I didn't expect him to be back, man. There's a lot of people in this hostel. Maybe he's with one of them downstairs. Turns out he was like 20 miles away at the airport. He walked 15 miles. His feet were bleeding. He came back, fell asleep, didn't tell us anything for like a day. It was kind of funny. Okay, this is Lush. It's the same name as this really funny, imagine if there was a Chili's. This is Lush by Wandering by Caseo. Okay, Lush is a restaurant in Beijing, and I'm trying to explain to you what it looks like. Imagine a Chili's where like it's really cheap, like drinks are like $1 and the food is like a little overpriced, and it's Beijing, and it's just like that, man. So there's a bunch of Chinese people there, and they're serving Chili's food, but it's not that. It's like a bar, and it's just bars, and it's just a bunch of Westerners, dude. And it's like if it was for a young audience, but everybody didn't want to grow up, so all these Westerners are like 30, 40, but they're like they're 24 or what. I'm like, okay, I'm trying to imagine that, man, but it's kind of hard. I'm like, okay, well, that's Lush. Imagine this, man. There's like, imagine in your mind, if you're an American, you probably just thought all those people we explained were also Americans, but imagine this. They're more like Irish and Italians and Australians, and not the good kinds that you picture in the films, but they're still good people, but it's like not the kind that you thought. A lot of people just hanging out. They're just regular dudes and gals, I guess, man, whatever you call them in Australia then. Anyway, I'm just trying to explain to you what this place is called, man. It's called Lush, and downstairs is a place called Pyro Pizza. You can go there and get a lot of pizza and a lot of beer, bro, for like $5 on any buffet day, like a Monday through Friday, even a Saturday and a Sunday. I remember you can go and you can get pizza though, unlimited pizza. It's good thin, like New York style pizza though, and you can get all you can drink beer. All you can drink beer. They don't have a price on the amount of beer that you drink. You just pay a one-time fee, and it's like $5. They also have these things called Korean barbecues and hot pot, and they also have all you can drink beer and a nice meal for $20. And I always look at the manager and I say, can you come here? This was awesome. But if you were in America, you'd go out of business in a week. He says, why? I said, not because beer's cheap, but because they'd break things. Okay, this is Marseille by Mirema and Clément Matra. Azure Blue is the EP. Sorry for butchering the French for those French speakers out there. So one day, give me a minute, I was walking down this place like on 95th and 2nd. He's like, what are you talking about? Those streets don't exist. Not in any city. Definitely not in Taipei or in this place, man. I'm like, okay. So I'm under a bridge in Taipei. I'm walking back from this like little freestyle event at this place that was really cool, man. It was like an old port dock. And there was all these hippies that used to sleep there. And there's this one guy, he's like enlightened. His name's Hugo. He's a Spanish guy. He's a cool guy. So I'm walking under this bridge. I'm chilling. And I'm with a gal. And all of a sudden a pack of dogs rolls up. There's like 50 of them. Not 50, like 10. But I was scared. I had a speaker in my hand and I tried to back up and get away. And I didn't want to hit a dog, man. And I asked a bunch of people after that, what's the best way to get away from an angry pack of dogs? And they said, I don't know. I never met the guys who didn't get away. To a deeper question.